And I'm really curious to know how this happened.
All right. You're on Swedes Garage YouTube channel.
This engine is supposed to have a broken timing belt. I have no idea. I ran it on the starter and it's got no compression. So let's open up this front cover here and see if the timing belt is broken. I don't see anything, but sometimes the teeth from the belt, they break off and ends up in under the the crank wheel. So let's see if we spin the motor, if the belt goes with it, or if the belt doesn't move, the teeth are gone under here. But it looks like the belt doesn't look that old. So what size is that? 32? No. So what happened? It's got no compression and the timing belt is where's the marking? Let's see. Maybe it jumped. Ooh. Somebody, I think they replaced the belt and they fucked up. Because here's a factory marking. Let's pull that out. Let's see here. No. Well, these cams are timed right. The marking is correct there. The bottom, I don't know. Oh, yeah, I can see it here. And this marking is correct too. So it's got no compression and the timing belt is okay. So what happened? Your guess is as good as mine, but the timing belt looks new. It's a Volvo. It's a Volvo belt, and it looks, I mean, it doesn't look old. And it's got a sticker on the water pump. It's still there. And the belt is tight. Interesting. Oh, I can't wait to tear this motor apart to see what's wrong. it's got let's take the spark plugs out. Hang on. Okay, so to speed up this video a little bit, I already did some pre-work here off camera. So this one, I removed this one, and I also, these are just on here, I also removed the plugs. And let me say that the timing belt, it doesn't look old, and it's a Volvo original. I mean, it's a Volvo part. It's not some aftermarket Chinese timing belt from Biltema or something. It's got Volvo stamps on it. The water pump still got a sticker on it, so I think that's pretty new too. I don't know when they changed this timing belt and stuff, but I don't think it's been long ago. And I removed the plugs, and the plugs are, they're Volvo plugs, and it's the iridium plug. So somebody's done I think somebody's done a good maintenance on this car before I bought it. So I removed the plugs. This is number 1, this is number 2, 3, 4, and the final one, number 5, looks like this. Can you see that? Something has been banging on the plug inside the cylinder. So because we have no compression, I assume it is the valve that's been broken off and bouncing around in the cylinder. But why did the valve broke, or why did it come loose? Because the timing belt is correct. So I have a couple of different ideas here. We could have either one of the camshaft have broken in 2 pieces, which means it won't open the valves on 1 or more cylinders, depends where it broke, and that would make it ruin all the valves. I mean, bend them, and but I don't know. It depends what speed and RPM this engine had when it broke, because I've seen, in my days, I've seen a lot of engines where the timing belt broke, and it only bends the valves. I have never seen a valve broke off, I mean, in 2 pieces from a timing belt that broke. So it could be that a camshaft had broken in 2 pieces, and that would have some valves open, and the piston will hit that valve. But it could also be that something came into that cylinder and caused all this carnage. And the turbo is pretty worn out. I haven't done any investigations in the turbo if it's got missing wings or anything from the compressor wheel, but it's worn out. I mean, it's got play, a lot of play in that shaft. So it could have been a foreign object got on the cylinder, the cam broke, or a valve came loose, or a valve spring broke and dropped the valve down. So it could be a lot of things. So I'm gonna take this head off. Well, we start with the top side here, and when we take this top off, you get to see the cams and the springs and valves and stuff like that. So just taking this top off, we're going to get a lot closer to what happened. But I hope it hasn't damaged the cylinder walls too much, because I might want to use this block. Depends on what it looks like inside. And if this is an engine that changed during the years in the car, it could be, this block could be better than the block I have. So I'm gonna start taking the top off, and I don't need to video that, loosen 700 bolts here on top. I don't need to video that. So I'll get back to you when it's time to lift this one up, off, and we can both look together and see if the cams are okay, or yeah, what happened. So I'll get back to you. Hang in there. Well, I haven't got the the top cover off yet, but I removed the intake manifold, and in cylinder number 5 I found this. That's a lot of metal shaving there in the intake. So that comes from inside the cylinder. When the piston goes up and the intake valve is open, it's gonna spit this out here. So I'm excited to see what's going on inside this cylinder. Lucky for me, I don't have a boroscope, or I would have already looked at it. So let's continue. Let's see. This one is loose. Let's take it off and see what we can find. I'm not using this cylinder head, so I'm not worried about the dirt and stuff. So the cams are okay. They're not broken. So let's take these off. Okay, I made some room here for the cams. So put this behind you guys on the table here. Okay, what about the magnet? I've seen better lifters, so maybe this engine did go 400,000 kilometers, 250,000 miles. They are the same height, because you know, if the valve stem breaks, the spring could push the valve stem up higher, but they are the same. They're the same height as the other ones. That was a mistake. I didn't plan on doing that. let's continue and get the head off. We'll see what it looks like in the cylinder. Okay, this is it. What you see here, that's number 5. So this one is just junk. I'm gonna remove the lifter so I can turn the head upside down. Ready, guys? Let's flip this over. Yeah, you can see that, huh? There's something missing. And where did they go? How the heck did they break a piston? And how long has it been driving it with the piston gone for it all to disappear? Wow. And the head is like here's the valves. Didn't a number on it. On the combustion chamber. And the valves. Oh, I'll skip this block then. Piston is gone, and it's got some serious damage on the cylinder wall. So they've been running this engine for a long time, and he knew it wasn't just the timing belt. He knew this, but he said the timing belt broke. Well, I wasn't planning of using this. Man, it's got the cross honing is still there. There's no way. Man, that was a shame. There's no way this block is the factory block. It's got no piston ring edges, and the cross hone marks are still there. Man, what a shame. But I'm curious how they managed to trash a piston with all the valves are still in the head. I mean, I can understand it if a valve broke and fell down in the cylinder, but something must have got in there. There's a lot of work been done on this engine, so maybe they dropped something in the intake while they've been working on the engine. Because crankshaft ventilation, the crank vent. All the hoses have other hose clamps, so they've been there working on it, and every single hose on this engine do not have factory clamps. So I think this is not the original engine from the 850. I think they replaced it sometime. I still gotta check the turbo and see if something came loose in the turbo that pushed it in the engine. But let's see what the other cylinders look like. Well, the other ones are, there's got a lot of soot in them, so I don't think that turbo worked very well in the last couple of miles. There, I pulled the rod, the top. Man, can you imagine how much this engine would have knocked while they were driving it? There's gonna be a lot of stuff in the oil pan. Man, I'm a little bit bummed out because I was hoping that it would be that they replace the engine sometime during its lifetime, and so maybe this one would be better than the block I have. And hang on, I hope you can see the crosses marks, and you see the edge up here. It's got no soot edges on top of the cylinders. This was probably a low mileage engine, and they fucked it up. Man, I'm so bummed. This engine would have been, this block would have been perfect to build on. Oh shit. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. I don't really remember. I gotta pull out the other block I have and look at it, because I don't really remember what it looked like. I'm gonna compare them, both of them, and see. The one I have it might be as good as this one. But this is why I didn't have any compression. But I'm surprised. Oh, it must have been the lifters were probably didn't open the, because it sounded like you didn't have compression on any cylinder. That's why I assumed that the timing belt was off, or was it broken. But this would have compression on 4 cylinders. And you couldn't hear this, when you run on the starter, you couldn't hear the rod banging around in the cylinder, because the engine doesn't turn fast enough on the starter. Oh, it's too bad. Well, I'll take apart this turbo and see if we got any parts missing inside it that could have gone inside the 5th cylinder. Well, I think that's probably it in this video. We saw what happened to the engine. The seller told me the timing belt had broken, and when I turned it over on the starter before I paid for the car, it sounded like the timing belt was broke. It had no compression. So now we know that it wasn't the timing belt. And I'm really curious to know how this happened. Because I can understand it if a valve breaks and fall down in the cylinder, then it's going to be bouncing around there and eventually trash the piston. But all the valves were still in place and none of them were broken. Not even broken. So something came into that cylinder and trashed the piston. But what? That's my question. And we see later on, I'm going to remove the oil pan and see if I can find anything in there that doesn't belong on top of the piston, like a bolt or a nut or a socket, or I mean, somebody could have dropped something in there when they replaced the spark plugs or whatever, and we'll see. It's gonna be exciting. But this is it for this video about the problem with my 850 engine. Unfortunately, this block is junk now. Just throw it away. It's the markings in the cylinder from the wrist pin bolt or wrist pin. The markings in the cylinder from the wrist pin is way too severe. You can't bore it. If you're gonna fix this block, you have to sleeve it, and it's not worth it. I have another block, exactly the same, 2.4. It's got the same engine. The engine model is the same. It's a B54, 52. No, 52, 54T. The other block I have is the same. So I'll use that block. It's too bad because this block didn't have many miles on it. That's a shame. So stay tuned for the next video. Subscribe and you won't miss anything. So have a good new year, because this video is gonna come out maybe a week or two into January. So have a good year. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.